Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship New Horizons and watched the stars through the main window. The year was 2387, and humans had built homes on 17 different worlds across space. Jake had been exploring new areas for 3 years now, and he loved his job. Today felt different, though. His sensors were picking up something strange near the planet Kepler 442b. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Phillips walked up to Jake with a worried look on his face. Ryan was the ship's intelligence officer, and he was very good at his job. He had short brown hair and sharp green eyes that missed nothing. "Captain, we have company," Ryan said quietly. 5 ships just appeared on our screens. They are big and they do not look like any human ships I have ever seen. Jake felt his heart beat faster but kept his voice calm. "Red alert. All hands to battle stations. Can we talk to them, Ryan?" "I am trying, Captain, but their technology is very advanced. Wait, I am getting something now." Ryan pressed buttons on his control panel and suddenly a deep voice filled the bridge. "Human vessel, this is War Commander Vexthul of the Zephyrian Empire. You will stop your engines and prepare to be boarded. Do not resist, or you will be destroyed." Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. They had trained for first contact with aliens, but nothing had prepared them for this. The voice sounded cold and powerful. Jake knew he had to be careful. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earth ship New Horizons. We come in peace and wish to talk." There was silence for several minutes. Then Vexthul spoke again, but his voice sounded different now. Almost friendly. "Captain Morrison, we apologize for our harsh greeting. We did not know humans had reached this far into space. We would be happy to meet with you and discuss peaceful relations between our peoples." Jake felt relief wash over him. Maybe this would work out after all. "That sounds good, Commander. Would you like to come aboard our ship, or should we come to yours?" "We will send a shuttle to your ship, Captain. Please prepare a meeting room for 5 of our people." Jake turned to his crew. "You heard him. Lisa, get ready to meet our new friends. Ryan, I want you to record everything. This is history in the making." Ambassador Lisa Rodriguez was the best diplomat Jake had ever worked with. She was smart and calm, and could make friends with anyone. She had long black hair, and always dressed perfectly for important meetings. Lisa had been excited about meeting aliens since she was a little girl. Now her dream was coming true. The Zephyrian shuttle was beautiful. It moved through space like water, and made no sound at all. When it landed in the New Horizons cargo bay, Jake was amazed at how smooth and clean it looked. The aliens who walked out were tall and thin with blue-gray skin and large dark eyes. They wore flowing robes that seemed to change color in the light. War Commander Vexthul was the tallest of the group. He had markings on his face that looked like tattoos, and when he spoke, his voice was deep and calm. "Captain Morrison, it is an honor to meet you. We have watched your species from far away and are impressed by your progress." Lisa stepped forward with a big smile. "Welcome to our ship, Commander. We are very excited to learn about your people and your empire." The meeting went well. Very well. The Zephyrians seemed interested in human culture and asked many questions about Earth and the colonies. They talked about trade and shared technology. Vexthul even smiled when Lisa showed him pictures of human children playing on different worlds. "Your species has much potential," Vexthul said. "We would like to help. You grow and become stronger. The galaxy can be dangerous for young civilizations." Jake felt hopeful. These aliens seemed genuinely friendly. Maybe humanity had found powerful allies among the stars. The meeting lasted for 3 hours and ended with promises to meet again soon. But Ryan Phillips was not happy. Something felt wrong to him. The Zephyrians had asked very specific questions about human military strength and the locations of all the colonies. They wanted to know how many ships humans had and what kind of weapons they carried. When Lisa asked about Zephyrian military, Power Vexthul had been vague and changed the subject. That night after the aliens left, Ryan worked alone in his small office. He had recorded every word of the meeting, and now he played it back over and over. The more he listened, the more worried he became. The questions were too detailed and too focused on weaknesses. This felt like intelligence gathering, not friendly conversation. Ryan decided to monitor Zephyrian communications. It took him hours to break through their security, but his computer skills were excellent. What he found made his blood run cold. The Zephyrians were sending detailed reports about human defenses to someone called the High Command. They were mapping every human world and counting every human ship. The worst part came when Ryan decoded a message from Vexthul to his superiors. The humans are even weaker than we thought. Their weapons are primitive, and their military is small. They suspect nothing. We can proceed with the final phase as planned. Total conquest should take less than 1 month. Ryan sat in his chair and stared at the message. The friendly aliens were planning to destroy humanity. They had been studying humans for months, maybe years. The meeting today was not diplomacy. It was a final inspection before invasion. Ryan rushed to find Captain Morrison. Jake was in his quarters reading reports when Ryan burst through the door without knocking. "Captain, we have a huge problem. The Zephyrians are not our friends. They are planning to attack us." Jake looked at Ryan like he was crazy. "What are you talking about, Ryan? They were perfectly friendly today." "Captain, please look at this." Ryan showed Jake the intercepted messages. As Jake read, his face went white. "Oh my God, Lisa's having dinner with them right now." The two men ran to the dining hall. They could hear laughter coming from inside. When they opened the door, they saw Lisa sitting with 3 Zephyrian officers sharing human food and telling stories. Everyone looked happy and relaxed. "Lisa, we need to talk." "To you right now," Jake said. Lisa looked confused. "Jake, what is wrong?" "We are having a wonderful time." Vexthul stood up slowly, his large dark eyes fixed on Ryan. "Intelligence Officer Phillips has been busy, I see. You humans are more clever than we expected." The friendly mask was gone. Vexthul's voice was cold again. The other Zephyrians reached for weapons hidden under their robes. Lisa realized too late what was happening. "You lied to us," she said. "We told you exactly what you wanted to hear." Vexthul replied. "Your species always does. You are so eager to make friends that you ignore obvious dangers. It makes conquest very easy." Jake stepped in front of Lisa. "Let her go. Your fight is with me." "Our fight is with your entire species, Captain, and it will be over very soon." The fight in the dining hall was short and brutal. Vexthul moved faster than any human could, and his weapon fired beams of pure energy. Lisa tried to duck behind a table, but the alien commander was too quick. The energy beam hit her in the chest, and she fell to the floor with smoke rising from her uniform. Jake grabbed a chair and threw it at Vexthul, but the alien barely moved. Ryan pulled his sidearm and started shooting. The bullets bounced off some kind of invisible shield around the Zephyrians. More energy beams filled the air, and Jake felt heat pass by his face. "All hands abandon dining hall," Jake shouted into his communicator. "Hostile aliens aboard ship, security to deck 7 now." The New Horizons security team arrived within minutes, but their weapons were useless against Zephyrian shields. 3. More crew members died before the aliens decided they had learned enough. Vexthul looked down at Lisa's body with no emotion at all. "Your ambassador was brave but foolish," he said to Jake. "In 36 hours every human world will burn. Your species had potential, but you chose to resist us. That was a mistake." The Zephyrians walked back to their shuttle like nothing had happened. Jake wanted to stop them, but he knew his crew would die if he tried. He knelt beside Lisa and checked for signs of life. Her pulse was very weak, but she was still breathing. "Medical team to dining hall emergency," Jake called out. "Ryan, get us out of here now. Maximum speed back to Earth." As the New Horizons jumped into hyperspace, Jake stood over Lisa in the medical bay. The ship's doctor was doing everything he could, but the alien weapon had damaged her internal organs badly. Lisa opened her eyes one last time and grabbed Jake's hand. "Tell them," she whispered. "Tell Earth what is coming. These aliens have done this before, many times. They know exactly how to destroy us." Lisa died 20 minutes later. Jake felt anger, building inside him like fire. The Zephyrians had pretended to be friends just to study human weaknesses. They had murdered a good person who only wanted peace between species. The trip to Earth took 4 days at maximum speed. Jake used every minute to prepare his report. Ryan worked without sleep to analyze everything they had learned about Zephyrian, technology, and tactics. When they finally reached Earth orbit, both men looked exhausted. Admiral Kate Sullivan met them at Space Command headquarters in Geneva. Kate was a tough woman in her 50s who had spent 30 years protecting Earth from various threats. She had short gray hair and eyes that could see through any lie. Jake had known her since he was a young officer and respected her more than anyone. "Jake, I read your preliminary report," Kate said. "Are you absolutely certain about this invasion timeline?" "Yes, Admiral. Vexthal said 36 hours, and that was 4 days ago. The attack could come at any moment." Kate called an emergency meeting of the Defense Council. Military leaders from every human world attended by hologram. The room filled with worried faces as Jake told his story. When he finished, there was complete silence. General Marcus Stone spoke first. Marcus was old and had fought in the Mars Independence War 20 years ago. He knew about impossible battles. "Admiral, with respect, this is suicide. If these aliens have the technology Jake describes, we cannot win a war against them." "What are you suggesting, General?" Kate asked. "Immediate surrender. Send a message to this Vexthal offering to negotiate. Maybe we can become part of their empire instead of being destroyed." Several other officers nodded in agreement. The numbers were clear. Humanity had about 200 warships scattered across 17 worlds. The Zephyrians apparently had 50,000 ships and weapons that could go through human shields like they were made of paper. Colonel Amy Foster stood up from the back of the room. Amy was younger than most of the other officers, but she had earned her rank fighting space pirates in the outer colonies. She had red hair and a scar across her left cheek from an explosion on Europa. "General Stone, with respect, surrender is not an option," Amy said. "These aliens did not come here to rule us. They came to eliminate us. Jake said they have conquered over 400 species. How many of those species are still alive?" "We do not know that," Colonel Marcus replied. "Maybe they allow conquered peoples to live under their rule." Ryan Phillips stepped forward. "Actually, General, we do know. I intercepted more communications during our escape. The Zephyrians do not keep slaves or servants. When they conquer a species, they study them for useful technology, then eliminate the entire population. They see other species as temporary obstacles, not potential citizens." The room went quiet again. Kate looked around the table at faces filled with fear and despair. "So our choices are fight and die quickly, or surrender and die slowly." Captain Julie Barnes raised her hand. Julie commanded a patrol ship called the Defender and had been studying the combat footage from the New Horizons encounter. She was a small woman with blonde hair, but Jake knew she was one of the best tactical minds in the fleet. "Admiral, I think we might have a third option," Julie said. "I have been analyzing the battle recordings and I noticed something interesting. The Zephyrians retreated from several positions where they had clear advantages." "What do you mean, Captain?" Kate asked. "When our security team attacked them in the dining hall, the aliens had superior weapons and shields. They could have killed everyone on the ship easily. But when our people started acting unpredictably, throwing furniture and using emergency equipment as weapons, the Zephyrians seemed confused. They completed their intelligence gathering and left instead of finishing the job." Amy Foster leaned forward with interest. "Are you saying they were afraid?" "Not afraid exactly, but definitely uncertain. These aliens have conquered 400 species using the same basic tactics every time. They study their enemies, then apply overwhelming force at key strategic points. But what if their enemies do not follow the expected patterns?" Dr. Alex Chen joined the conversation. Alex had been studying the biological samples left behind by the Zephyrian delegation. He was a thin man with thick glasses who spoke very quietly, but always had important things to say. "Captain Barnes may be correct," Alex said. "Based on their cellular structure and brain chemistry, the Zephyrians appear to be a very logical species. They probably approach every problem the same way, using established procedures and proven methods. That makes them very efficient but also potentially predictable." Kate felt a small spark of hope. "Are you suggesting we can outthink them?" "I am suggesting we can confuse them, Admiral. If they expect us to behave like the other 400 species they conquered, we should do exactly the opposite." Marcus Stone shook his head. This is fantasy. You want to bet human survival on the hope that aliens who have been winning wars for thousands of years will suddenly forget how to fight. General, what choice do we have? Amy said. We can surrender and die for certain or fight and maybe find a way to survive. I would rather die fighting than die begging. Jake thought about Lisa Rodriguez lying dead in the medical bay. She had believed in peace and friendship between species. The Zephyrians had used her goodness against her and killed her for it. He would not let her death be meaningless. Admiral or volunteer to command the 1st Resistance Unit, Jake said. Let me take the New Horizons and a small fleet to test these new tactics. If we can prove that unpredictable behavior confuses them, maybe we can buy time for the colonies to prepare better defenses. Kate looked around the room one more time. Half the officers still wanted to surrender. The other half were ready to try anything. In the end, the decision was hers alone. Gentlemen and ladies, we are not surrendering, Kate announced. Colonel Foster will coordinate our new tactical doctrine. Captain Morrison will lead the first test mission. Dr. Chen will continue studying Zephyrian weaknesses. General Stone will oversee evacuation of civilian populations from the most vulnerable worlds. Marcus Stone stood up and saluted reluctantly. Yes, Admiral. I pray you are making the right choice. General, I pray we all live long enough to find out. The Zephyrian invasion began exactly 36 hours after Vexthul had promised it would. Massive alien fleets appeared simultaneously above 12 human colony worlds. Their ships moved in perfect formations like dancers, following a choreographed routine. Within the first hour, 6 major cities had been destroyed by orbital bombardment. On Mars Colony, Commander Sam Rodriguez watched the alien ships descend through the atmosphere. Sam was Lisa's younger brother, and he had joined the military after hearing about her death. He was shorter than his sister had been, but had the same dark eyes and stubborn personality. Sam commanded the Mars Defense Force, which consisted of 43 ships and about 2,000 ground troops. The Zephyrian attack followed their standard pattern exactly. First, they destroyed all communication satellites and space stations. Then they eliminated military installations from orbit. Finally, they landed ground troops to secure important locations. It was efficient and thorough, and had worked perfectly on 400 other worlds. But Sam Rodriguez was not following the standard defensive pattern. Instead of trying to protect military bases and government buildings, he ordered a complete evacuation to the underground tunnel system that connected Mars mining operations. When the Zephyrian troops landed, they found empty cities and abandoned military posts. All units, this is Rodriguez. Sam spoke into his communicator from deep underground. Phase 1 is complete. Begin tunnel warfare protocols. The Zephyrians had expected to fight human soldiers in open battlefields using conventional tactics. Instead, they found themselves chasing shadows through dark tunnels filled with mining equipment and industrial machinery. Every corridor was a potential ambush site, and every chamber could be a trap. When the first group of alien soldiers entered Tunnel Complex 7, they walked into carefully placed explosive charges. The blast brought down tons of rock and buried 12 Zephyrians instantly. But Sam was not finished. His people had spent days preparing surprises throughout the tunnel system. Lieutenant Ben Murphy led a team of engineers who had weaponized everything they could find. Conveyor belts became moving barriers that knocked aliens off balance. Mining lasers were modified to cut through Zephyrian armor. Even the air recycling system was turned into a weapon by pumping in smoke and chemical irritants. The aliens tried to adapt, but every time they learned to counter one tactic, the humans switched to something completely different. Conventional military doctrine said defenders should hold fixed positions and force attackers to come to them. Sam's people attacked when the aliens expected defense and disappeared when the aliens expected battle. Above ground on Luna Base, Captain Ben Clark faced a different challenge. The moon had no tunnel system and no atmosphere to hide in. When 50 Zephyrian ships surrounded Luna Base, Ben knew his 12 patrol craft could not win a direct fight, so he decided not to fight directly. Ben had grown up on Luna and knew every crater and mountain on the moon's surface. He also knew that civilian transport ships were still docked at the base cargo area. These ships were not designed for combat, but they were fast and could carry large loads. "All civilian pilots, this is Clark," he broadcast on emergency frequency. "I need volunteers for a very dangerous mission. We are going to ram enemy ships." Most people thought Ben had lost his mind. Ramming attacks were suicide missions that military forces only used in desperate situations. But Luna had thousands of civilian pilots who had lived on the moon their entire lives. When alien ships threatened their home, they were ready to do anything to protect it. The first transport ship that hit a Zephyrian cruiser was piloted by an old cargo hauler named Pete Williams. Pete had been flying freight runs between Earth and Luna for 30 years and knew his ship better than anyone. He accelerated his transport to maximum speed and drove it straight into the alien ship's engine section. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire, but Pete's sacrifice destroyed a vessel that had been bombarding Luna surface installations. More importantly, it confused the Zephyrian commanders who could not understand why civilians would voluntarily die to protect a military base. The alien fleet commander sent a message to Luna base demanding surrender. Ben Clark's response was to launch 6 more transport ships at different targets. The Zephyrians tried to shoot down the incoming transports, but civilian pilots knew how to use Luna's gravitational field and crater shadows to hide their approach. The end of the first day, Ben had lost 8 transport ships and their pilots, but had destroyed 4 major Zephyrian vessels. The alien fleet was still much larger, but their formation was broken and their commanders were clearly frustrated. The most shocking development happened at New Eden Agricultural Colony. Colonel Danny Wright commanded the defense forces on a world that grew food for 3 other human systems. New Eden had very few military assets, but it had something much more valuable to the Zephyrians. The planet produced enough grain and vegetables to feed millions of people. When the alien invasion fleet arrived, Danny made a decision that horrified his own officers. Instead of trying to defend the farms and food processing plants, he ordered them all destroyed. Every grain elevator was blown up. Every processing facility was burned. Every water treatment plant was poisoned with industrial chemicals. "Colonel, what are you doing?" shouted Major Lisa Johnson. "We are destroying everything we swore to protect." "No, Major, we are denying it to the enemy," Danny replied. "The Zephyrians came here to steal our food supplies for their empire. If we cannot keep it, then we will make sure they cannot use it either." The scorched earth tactics worked exactly as Danny had planned. When Zephyrian ground forces finally secured New Eden, they found a planet that was completely worthless. The soil was contaminated, the water was poisoned, the infrastructure was demolished. Instead of gaining valuable agricultural resources, the aliens had captured a wasteland, but the human cost was terrible. New Eden colonists had spent 20 years building their farms and cities. Watching everything burn was almost harder than fighting the aliens directly. Many colonists cried as they set fire to their own homes. The Zephyrian commander on New Eden sent increasingly angry messages to his superiors. His invasion plan called for securing food production within 48 hours. Instead, he was requesting emergency supply ships because his forces could not eat anything on the planet. Dr. Rachel Foster worked with a team of military psychologists to analyze captured Zephyrian communications. Rachel was Amy Foster's sister and had studied alien behavior patterns for most of her career. What she discovered was more valuable than any weapon. "The Zephyrians are having command failures on every world they attacked," Rachel reported to Admiral Sullivan. "Their officers are trained to follow specific procedures for each situation. When human defenders do unexpected things, the alien commanders do not know how to respond." "What kind of unexpected things?" Kate asked. "Everything, Admiral. On Mars, they expected to fight soldiers but found empty cities. On Luna, they expected naval combat but got kamikaze attacks. On New Eden, they expected to capture resources but found scorched earth. Every single human response has been something they never encountered before." Kate felt hope growing stronger. "Are you saying we can actually win this war?" "I am saying we are already changing it, Admiral. The Zephyrians have never had to adapt their tactics during a conquest before. They are designed to be efficient, not flexible. Every time we force them to change their plans, we gain a small advantage. But the advantages came at a terrible price. Millions of humans were dead or missing. Entire cities had been destroyed. 3 colony worlds were completely cut off from Earth and might already be lost. The human fleet was down to less than 100 functional ships. Admiral Sullivan stood in her command center watching tactical displays that showed alien fleets advancing on Earth itself. 50,000 Zephyrian ships were moving through space toward humanity's homeworld. Even with their new tactics, the human defense force could not stop that many enemies. Admiral, incoming message from the Zephyrian fleet, her communications officer reported. Put it on main screen, Kate ordered. War Commander Vexthul appeared on the display looking tired and frustrated. His perfect uniform was dirty, and his calm demeanor was cracking. Admiral Sullivan, I offer you one final chance to surrender. Your people fight like madmen instead of soldiers. End this pointless resistance, and I will allow your species to serve the Empire. Kate looked at the alien who had murdered Lisa Rodriguez and started this war. She thought about Sam Rodriguez fighting in the tunnels of Mars and Ben Clark, sacrificing civilian pilots to protect Luna Base, and Danny Wright burning his own world to deny it to enemies. Commander Vexthul, she replied. You made one critical mistake when you attacked us. You assumed humans would act like every other species you conquered, but we are not like them. We do not fight because we hate you. We fight because we love what we are protecting, and that makes us very dangerous. Vexthul's expression darkened. Then you will all die, Admiral. My fleet will reach Earth in 6 hours. Your homeworld will burn just like your colonies. We will see about that, Commander, Kate said and cut the communication link. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in Earth's main command center watching 50,000 Zephyrian ships approach her homeworld. The alien fleet moved in perfect formation like a massive mechanical organism. Every ship held its exact position, and every movement followed predetermined patterns. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Phillips approached Kate with a datapad full of analysis reports. Ryan had not slept in 3 days, but his mind was working faster than ever. Admiral, I think I understand something important about Zephyrian psychology. They interpret unpredictable behavior as a form of mental illness, and their species has an instinctual fear of insanity. What does that mean for us, Ryan? Kate asked. It means we should act as crazy as possible, Admiral. Not just tactically, but psychologically. We need to make them think humans are completely insane. Kate looked at Ryan like he was the insane one. How exactly do we convince an alien species that we are mentally ill? Dr. Alex Chen joined the conversation. Alex had been working with communication specialists to develop new approaches to psychological warfare. Admiral, we could broadcast human cultural content on all Zephyrian frequencies. Music, poetry, personal messages, anything that seems irrational to logical alien minds. You want to fight them with music? Kate said. Admiral, the Zephyrians have studied hundreds of species, but they have never encountered anything like human creativity. Our art and music might seem like random noise to them. If we can make them think we make decisions based on emotion instead of logic, it could paralyze their command structure. Kate considered the idea. It sounded completely ridiculous, but then, again, everything humans had done in this war sounded ridiculous. All right, Dr. Chen, prepare your psychological warfare package. Ryan, coordinate with all remaining fleet commanders. If we are going to act insane, we might as well do it properly. Lieutenant Sarah Kim commanded a squadron of 12 fighter craft that were preparing for what everyone assumed would be a suicide mission against the Zephyrian flagship. Sarah was 26 years old and had been flying military fighters for only 2 years. She was not supposed to be leading attack squadrons, but most of the experienced pilots were already dead. Phoenix Squadron, this is Kim. She spoke into her communicator. We are not going to attack the enemy flagship. Instead, we are going to dance around it. Say again, leader, came the confused response from her wingman. You heard me correctly. We are going to perform aerobatic maneuvers around the Zephyrian command ship while broadcasting Beethoven's Ninth Symphony on all frequencies. Our job is to confuse them, not destroy them. Sarah's squadron launched from Luna Base and accelerated toward the massive alien fleet. The Zephyrian flagship was 5 kilometers long and bristled with weapon systems that could vaporize a human fighter in seconds. Any sane pilot would avoid the ship completely. But Sarah Kim was following the new human doctrine of tactical insanity. Her fighters approached the alien flagship at high speed, then began performing impossible maneuvers around its hull. They rolled and dove and spun through weapon fire while classical music played on every communication channel. The Zephyrian gunners tried to target the human fighters, but the pilots were not following any predictable flight patterns. Sarah's squadron danced through space like performers in a deadly ballet. When alien weapons locked onto one fighter, it would suddenly change direction and disappear behind the flagship's superstructure. War Commander Vexthal watched the human fighters from his command bridge with growing confusion. His tactical computers could not predict their movements or determine their objective. The humans were clearly not trying to destroy his ship, so what were they doing? Weapons Commander, destroy those fighters immediately, Vexthal ordered. Sir, our targeting systems cannot establish firing solutions. The human craft are moving in completely random patterns. They appear to be performing some kind of ritual dance. Vexthal stared at the tactical display in disbelief. In 3,000 years of conquest, he had never seen anything like this. Enemy forces were supposed to either attack or retreat. They were not supposed to perform aerial acrobatics while playing music. On Earth's surface, Captain Tim Wright led ground defense forces using tactics that seemed designed to fail. Tim was Danny Wright's cousin and shared the same stubborn refusal to follow normal military procedures. When Zephyrian dropships landed near New York City, Tim's forces did something unprecedented. They retreated when they should have attacked. They attacked when they should have retreated. Sometimes they stopped fighting completely and sat down to eat lunch in the middle of combat zones. Zephyrian ground commanders sent increasingly panicked reports to their superiors about human forces that seemed to have no tactical coherence at all. Enemy infantry battalion has abandoned defensive positions and is now playing music and dancing, read one report. Request instructions on how to respond to this behavior. The breakthrough came when Major Lisa Johnson captured a Zephyrian command post not through superior firepower but through something no alien could have predicted. She walked directly into the facility carrying a white flag and requested to speak with the commanding officer. The confused Zephyrian commander followed his species' diplomatic protocols and agreed to meet with her. Lisa entered the alien command center expecting to negotiate some kind of prisoner exchange. Instead, she challenged the alien commander to single combat. "I do not understand your request," the Zephyrian officer said through his translation device. "You wish to fight me personally?" "That is correct," Lisa replied. "Winner takes control of this facility and all personnel inside it." The alien commander had no protocol for this situation. His tactical manuals covered every possible military scenario, except individual combat challenges from enemy officers. While he tried to contact his superiors for instructions, Lisa calmly walked around the command center examining alien technology. "This is very interesting equipment," she said conversationally. "How does this targeting system work?" The Zephyrian technical staff found themselves explaining their weapons to an enemy soldier because no one had told them not to. Lisa asked polite questions and took detailed notes while alien officers stood around trying to figure out what was happening. The command paralysis spread throughout the Zephyrian battle group. Officers at every level were reporting situations that had no precedent in their military history. Human behavior made no logical sense, and their standard operating procedures had no solutions. War Commander Vexthal felt something he had never experienced before in his long military career: doubt. His invasion was succeeding according to all tactical measurements. Zephyrian forces controlled most major population centers on Earth, and human military resistance was collapsing. But something was very wrong. "Communications officer, patch me through to High Command," Vexthal ordered. "Sir, High Command is requesting immediate status reports from all invasion fleets. Apparently, similar problems are occurring on every human world." Vexthal felt his confidence cracking. "What kind of problems?" "Human defenders are exhibiting behavioral patterns that do not match any known military doctrine, sir. Our tactical computers cannot process their decision-making algorithms. Some field commanders are requesting immediate reinforcements, not because they are losing battles, but because they cannot understand what the humans are trying to accomplish." Dr. Rachel Foster monitored Zephyrian communications from a bunker deep beneath the Swiss Alps. What she discovered was more valuable than any military intelligence. The alien command structure was experiencing systematic failures at every level. "Admiral, the Zephyrian military is designed around absolute predictability," Rachel reported to Kate Sullivan. "Every officer knows exactly what to do in every situation because they have done the same thing hundreds of times before. But human unpredictability is creating decision loops that their commanders cannot resolve." "Decision loops?" Kate asked. "When a Zephyrian officer encounters a situation with no predetermined response, he must contact his superiors for instructions. But if every officer is encountering unprecedented situations at the same time, the entire command chain becomes overloaded. Nobody can make decisions because everyone is waiting for someone else to tell them what to do." Kate felt excitement building. "Are you saying their own efficiency is working against them?" "Exactly, Admiral. The Zephyrian Empire conquered 400 species, using the same basic tactics every time. They never had to develop flexibility or creativity, because overwhelming force always worked. Now they are facing enemies who do not follow any logical patterns, and their entire military structure is breaking down." High above Earth, Sarah Kim's fighter squadron was still performing impossible maneuvers around the Zephyrian flagship. The classical music had been replaced by jazz, then rock and roll, then something called experimental electronic fusion. Alien gunners had given up trying to shoot down the human fighters, and were just watching the aerial display. War Commander Vexthul stood on his command bridge staring at tactical screens that made no sense. His invasion was technically successful but felt like a defeat. Human military forces were destroyed, but human resistance was stronger than ever. Most disturbing of all, his own officers were beginning to question orders for the first time in their careers. The meeting took place aboard the Zephyrian flagship in a conference room that was larger than most human buildings. War Commander Vexthul had agreed to Admiral Sullivan's ceasefire proposal, but he expected standard diplomatic negotiations. What he got instead was something no alien species had ever attempted. Admiral Jake Morrison entered the conference room with a strange group of humans. Along with Colonel Amy Foster and Dr. Alex Chen, he brought musicians, artists, writers, and most surprising of all, children from Earth's evacuation centers. 8-year-old Emma Taylor walked into the room holding her father's hand and staring at the tall aliens with curious eyes instead of fear. Vexthul looked at the human delegation with growing confusion. "Admiral Morrison, why have you brought civilians to a military negotiation?" "Because this is not a military negotiation, Commander," Jake replied. "This is something your species has never experienced before. We call it a cultural exchange." The humans began doing something that broke every rule of interspecies diplomacy. Instead of sitting at the conference table and discussing terms of surrender, they spread out around the room and started sharing food, music, and stories. Emma Taylor pulled out her coloring books and began drawing pictures of Zephyrian ships. Her father, Bob Taylor, was a musician who started playing guitar softly in one corner. Dr. Chen opened containers of human food and offered samples to confused alien officers. "This is called pizza, Commander. It comes from a region on Earth called Italy. Would you like to try some?" Vexthul stared at the piece of bread covered with cheese and vegetables. In his long military career, he had attended hundreds of diplomatic meetings, but none of them had involved sharing meals. "I do not understand the purpose of this activity, Dr. Chen." "The purpose is friendship, Commander. Humans believe you cannot truly know someone until you have eaten together." Colonel Foster was talking with a group of Zephyrian technical officers about human engineering and manufacturing techniques. But instead of discussing military applications, she was showing them pictures of human art and architecture. "This is the Taj Mahal," she explained. "A human man built it as a monument to his wife after she died. It took 20 years to complete and serves no practical purpose except beauty." The Zephyrian officers examined the pictures with fascination. Their species built for efficiency and function. The concept of creating something purely for aesthetic pleasure was completely foreign to them. Why would someone spend 20 years building something that serves no military or economic purpose, one alien asked. "Because he loved her," Amy replied simply. "Love makes humans do things that are not logical or practical." Emma Taylor approached War Commander Vexthul with a drawing she had made during the meeting. The picture showed Zephyrian ships flying, through space alongside human vessels. Both fleets were surrounded by stars and planets drawn in bright crayon colors. "I made this for you," she said, offering the paper to the alien commander. Vexthul looked down at the small human child. Emma was not afraid of him, even though he was 3 times her size and commanded a fleet that could destroy her entire world. She smiled at him with the innocent trust that only children possess. "Why did you make this for me?" Vexthul asked, kneeling, down to Emma's level. "Because I think your ships are beautiful," Emma said. "And because my daddy says you are sad because you do not have any friends." The comment hit Vexthul harder than any human weapon could have. His empire had spent thousands of years conquering other species, but had never formed genuine relationships with any of them. The Zephyrians had accumulated vast territories and resources, but had never experienced the simple pleasure of friendship. Jake Morrison watched the alien commander's reaction carefully. "Commander, may I ask you a personal question? In all your conquest, have you ever created anything that was not related to military expansion?" Vexthul considered the question. "We have built cities and factories and transportation networks, all necessary for imperial administration. But have you ever built something just because it was beautiful?" Jake pressed. "Have you ever written music or poetry or stories that had no practical purpose?" "No," Vexthul admitted. "Such activities would be inefficient." Dr. Chen joined the conversation. "Commander, our research indicates that your species has conquered over 400 civilizations. What happened to all those different cultures and their art and music and literature?" "They were cataloged and stored for historical reference," Vexthul replied. "Some technologies were adapted for imperial use." "But the cultures themselves," Alex asked. "The stories and songs and traditions that made each species unique." Vexthul was quiet for a long moment. "Those were considered irrelevant to imperial objectives." The room fell silent. Even the human children stopped playing and looked at the alien commander with something that might have been pity. Emma Taylor reached out and took Vexthul's large hand in her small one. "That must make you very lonely," she said. The simple observation from a human child shattered something inside Vexthul that had been building pressure for centuries. His empire had conquered hundreds of worlds, but had never truly understood what they were destroying. They had eliminated entire civilizations without ever learning what made those civilizations worth preserving. "We have never been lonely," Vexthul said, but his voice lacked conviction. "We have unity and purpose and efficiency." "But do you have joy?" asked Bob Taylor, looking up from his guitar. "When was the last time you did something just because it made you happy?" Vexthul tried to answer, but realized he had no response. Happiness and joy were not concepts that existed in Zephyrian military doctrine. They pursued victory and expansion and the glory of the empire, but had never considered whether any of those things brought personal satisfaction. Amy Foster pulled out a datapad showing casualty reports from the war. "Commander, in the past week over 2 million humans have died fighting your forces. Do you know why they fought instead of surrendering?" "Because they were too primitive to understand the futility of resistance," Vexthul replied automatically. "No, Commander," Amy said quietly. "They fought because they were protecting something they loved. Their families, their homes, their way of life. They died not because they hated you, but because they could not bear to lose what was precious to them." "Jake." Morrison stood up and activated a holographic display showing scenes from human colonies. Images of families playing together, children learning in schools, couples getting married, artists creating beautiful works, and musicians performing for crowds of happy people filled the air around the conference room. "This is what we were fighting to protect, Commander," Jake said. "Not territory or resources or strategic advantages. We were fighting to preserve the right to love each other and create beauty, and find joy in simple things like sharing a meal or listening to music." Vexthul stared at the holographic images. He had spent his entire life studying military tactics and conquest strategies, but had never considered what civilizations actually did during peacetime. The humans were showing him something his species had forgotten how to appreciate. They were showing him life instead of just existence. Emma Taylor tugged on Vexthul's uniform to get his attention. Mr. Alien, would you like to learn how to draw pictures? I could teach you if you want. The war commander of the most powerful military force in the galaxy looked down at an 8-year-old human girl who was offering to teach him something his species considered completely useless. For the first time in his long career, Vexthul felt curious about something that had no military application. I would like that very much, Emma, he said, sitting down on the floor beside her. As Emma began, explaining how to hold crayons and choose colors, Vexthul made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. He opened a communication channel to all Zephyrian fleet commanders. All units, this is War Commander Vexthul. Suspend offensive operations immediately. Begin withdrawal to minimum safe distance from human territories. I am ordering a complete ceasefire until further notice. Sir, are you certain? Came the confused response from his fleet commanders. We are on the verge of total victory. Victory, Vexthul repeated slowly. What exactly would we be winning, Commander? Empty planets with dead populations. Resources that we could obtain through trade instead of conquest. Territory that means nothing without the people who made it meaningful. Jake Morrison felt tears in his eyes as he watched the alien commander carefully draw stick figures with Emma's patient guidance. Commander, what happens now? Vexthul looked up from his drawing. Now, Admiral, we learned something new. For 3,000 years, my species has been very good at destroying things. Perhaps it is time we learned how to build something beautiful instead. 5 years later, former War Commander Vexthul stood in the new Galactic Cultural Center on Earth, watching human children and young Zephyrians work together on an art project. The building was a collaboration between human creativity and Zephyrian engineering that produced something neither species could have achieved alone. Emma Taylor was 13 now and served as an unofficial ambassador between the two species. She had kept the first drawing Vexthul ever made, and it hung framed in her bedroom alongside dozens of others they had created together over the years. Mr. Vex? She called out, using the nickname she had given him. Come see what we made.